Hello.
Hello, what are
Hello.
you what are you eating?
A cookie.
Oh, what what page are we doing today? Because I wasn't here
I
last
think we're
time.
180. I think it's 180.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, doctor.
Aquí estamos.
Muy bien.
Hey, watch out for the fan. It's going to give you a haircut there.
I know if I stand up too fast, it's going to kill me.
Huh. Did you see the videos of the earthquake in Taiwan?
Yep.
No, I
All the
didn't see. I
buildings
heard
were
about it, but
shaking and
no.
dancing.
Wow.
How bad?
Wow.
Bad?
Very.
7.4.
A lot of buildings came off their base.
Mm-hmm. But they
Very,
showed
very
inside an office. It looked like a tray, stock tray or something with a lot of computers.
Any
And the lamp,
tsunamis? Any tsunamis afterwards?
well, Japan is getting ready for a big tsunami now because of that. But this happened on the east,
On the East Coast? Oh,
on the east coast of Taiwan. Why Japan? Japan is even further east.
no, it's
No.
further
South.
it's further north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Japan is south of Taiwan.
Oh, south.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
But you know what? The problem is you don't know how the Earth movement, which of the tectonic plates moved.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, 7.5, it said?
Say it again.
7.4, I heard.
7.4.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
We also have a group here in my home. Again, I remind everybody that I do have volume 16s for those who need it. I'm getting volume 17. So I want to stay ahead with the volumes because last time we had an issue with not getting them on time. So he's going to ship me some volume 17s too. Okay.
Okay.
We are in volume 15.
180.
15.
Now, we started the dinim of Shechianu. I think we left off on page 180. Like when you have to make a bracha on food and Shechianu, what's the sequence?
Mhm.
Shechianu upon eating fruit poses important technical question. What is the order for reciting this bracha when eating? Which bracha should we recite first? Do we say the standard bracha upon the fruit, either ha'etz or ha'adama, or shechianu? This question is debated by the Achronim, including the Pri Megadim, whose opinion is cited by the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Pri Megadim in the Siman in Orach Chaim Resh Chaf Hei, which is the Siman of Shechianu. So the Pri Megadim thinks that the Birchas Shechianu should be made before you make the bracha on the fruit. The Bere'iyah, Roy Levine, as we learned last week, even seeing the new fruit triggers the bracha. So you certainly see the fruit before you eat it. Im kain bracha zu kadma. Umihu. However, It's not going to create a problem for the shechianu that you made a boy prates before and therefore you were mafsik. Dahave kigvil l'toiri. Has thing to do when you prepare food for an animal. Sheyesh oyim d'chayv levarich b'achila shechianu. Let's see the footnote. The Gemara Masech the Brachos 40a assesses a number of cases in which a person recites a bracha upon a food and then says something before actually partaking of the food, which we know could be a hefsek. Normally, you make a bracha and you have to eat the thing right away. Otherwise, it's considered a hefsek, and that's a problem. It's bracha levatolo. Normally, it would be considered an interruption, substantial interruption that disconnects the bracha from the eating, requiring the person to recite the bracha anew. However, if the interruption is absolutely necessary for the procedure of one's eating, the classic example is when you do netilas yadayim and you made the bracha already, and before you eat the bread, before you make the bracha of the bread, you can say, bring salt, right? And that's not considered a hefsek, right? Since you need salt to eat the bread, it's considered something that's required, then the hefsek doesn't ruin it's not a hefsek. In one of the examples discussed, a person instructs someone else to prepare food for his domesticated animals. You have a din that a person is required to feed one's animals before he feeds itself. So in essence, it's like a requirement, just like calling for the salt before you make the hamotzi. You want to make sure that there's salt present on the table. You wanted to make sure that your animals were fed. So that's why he says that even though technically you should make the shechanu first, the brach on the fruit is certainly essential for eating the fruit. The fruit, you couldn't eat it without it. Back to the Prima Godim. He wants to say that if you made the boy priya aids, and then you ate a little bit of the fruit, and then you said the shechianu, it's also okay. The Prima Godim, in general, when the Prima Godim says something, we usually paskin that way. However, a number of authorities disagree, including the Bayer Heitev, which is usually brought in the Mishnah Berurah, the Gra in Meiser Rav, and the Avnei Nezer, the Shachat Tzurba. In their opinion, due to the principle that the frequent precedes the infrequent, means when you have something tadir, you have a bracha that you normally say all the time, and you have a bracha that you only do occasionally, there's a tadir, v'sheinu tadir, tadir koidim. That which is said more frequently, you should do first. Since we make boy prates a lot more commonly than we say shechianu, the principle of tadir would demand that we make the boy prates first. The bracha upon the food should be recited before Birchas Shechianu. The Aruch HaShulchan notes these opinions as well as the fact that this is the common practice, though he himself favors reciting Shechianu first. Says the Aruch HaShulchan, mitzvah litami kol perek chadash. You should taste the new food. Ukedi isi b'Yerushalmi shevenu b'sif aleph, like was brought in the Yerushalmi, betam pashut. You want to give praise and thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who renews the fruits every year, for the sole purpose of benefiting humankind. A fruit that arises every year anew, that demands a shechianu. However, says the Aruch HaShulchan, the practice of the people has been to make the bracha on the fruit and then the shechianu. He brought the Avnei Nezer, the Bayer Heitev, the Gra, like we said, who also agreed that the bracha on the food should take precedence because of Tadir. However, says the Aruch HaShulchan, La'ani is daiti, in my humble opinion, Nir Lahagdim Bircha Shechianu. He says the Shechianu should be recited first. V'lo shaykh kan tam Tadir. He's going to make an argument that Tadir doesn't apply. The tam Tadir eino ela k'shechiu shneim b'ayim ka'achas. The Tadir issue is when you have an obligation that hits at the same time. Aval kan Bircha Shechianu chal koidem. The chalois, it means the institution of the bracha was started prior to the eating. But he said, Re'iyah alone, the Ikar Bracha Shechenu Yala Re'iyah. Seeing the new fruit, Lo Alachila. Elashanu Noagim Li Bracha B'Shas Achila. The minig has been, even though we saw the new fruit on the tree, we hold back the Bircha Shechenu until we eat it. So he says it's not something that automatically starts at the same time. There shouldn't be a hefsek. So meaning the way we do it, where we make the bracha on the fruit, then we say shechianu in certain instances. You've made a hefsek between the bracha on the food and eating the food. So, for example, Rosh Hashanah is not a problem for us because we say shechianu at the conclusion of Kiddush. Then we bring and then you make a motzi, and then you bring the yehi ratzon, and you make a bar eitz, and you eat the apple. But it's all after shechianu, so there's no problem there. Not like we don't recite the shechianu again. We have in mind on the second day of Rosh Hashanah the new fruit. The first day you don't have to have in mind the new fruit because you're making the shechianu on the new yontif. Now, on the second day of Pesach, like the Seder, we're going to say shechianu because that's a different din. Chazal established the second day yontif exactly like the first day. But just like we say shechianu the first day, we say shechianu the second day. Because for us, it's a sveka de yoma. For us, the second day is the first day. We don't know which is the first day. Rosh Hashanah, there's a debate in the Gemara about the concept of Yom Arichta, that Rosh Hashanah, even though it's 2 days, it's viewed halachically like one long day. So technically, the shechianu that you said the first night of Rosh Hashanah should last even for the second night. Technically, you shouldn't say the shechianu the second night, according to those opinions that it's Yom Arichta. So that's why they say you should have a new tie on, or have a new fruit, or a new dress.
Right?
By the way, Rabbi Krauss in Young Israel was makpid that the Baal Toikeya, since he also says a shechianu on the second day should have a new tie.
Yeah.
Because the same
Oh,
a
new
new
earring.
tie
That's a
for the
good.
second day, because his shechianu is also lechura extra if it's Yom Arichta.
They've already decided what they're gonna do when you're checking out.
Yeah, earrings.
I like that.
Okay, great.
Of course.
Isn't there a bracha? Isn't there?
Huh?
And the Aruch HaShulchan says that was his minig. So I think it's fascinating. Thus, the Ashkenazic Achronim are divided as to whether it's best to recite shechianu before reciting the fruit's own bracha. However, Sephardic Achronim, such as the Kaf HaChaim, Rav Ovadia Yosef, agree that a person should first recite the fruit's own bracha, followed by shechianu. Before Tchila Birchat Sapri, probably because of Tadir, V'achach shechianu, Hilchos Ktanus Chelek Aleph, the Kach Kosav Hachidah, right? Rav Chaim Yosef David Azulai, who's a major precedence for the Sephardi poskim. B'Simen Yosef Oimitz Simen Nun Vav. Then the Machzik Bracha, Umiyu. Ish Oimel Levar Shechianu Koidem. There are people who say the Shechianu first. Ein Eshel Avram. That's the prima godim that we brought up. According to this principle, when there are multiple actions which must be done, or multiple prayers or brachos which must be recited, the more regular one, the one that is done more frequently, that's the concept of tadir. Applications of this principle are numerous to mention. The Mishnah states that the daily Tamid is offered before any special Shabbos or holiday, Musaf. So therefore, the Tamid is offered first and the Musaf is offered second, because there's nothing more regular than the daily Tamid. It was literally offered every day, including Yom Kippur. There was no day it wasn't offered. The various additional offerings were offered only on Shabbos, once a week, Rosh Chodesh, once a month, Yom Tovim, so they're certainly less regular. So in that example, when the chiyuv, you have a chiyuv of bringing the korban that day. The question is, what should you do first? So there we invoke Tadir V'Sheda Tadir, and therefore the Olas HaTamid is shechted and Zrikas Adam is done the first, and then the various korbanei musaf are done afterwards.
There's some occasions, they're rare, and they have a reason, like for example, in benching, you say Alanisim first before it's say, but that's because Alanisim
Moedim,
goes to Moedim.
fits to
Right.
Moedim.
So that's why, but otherwise, Tadir is, you follow.
Ritzay and Yalav Yaver follows the Tadir principle. But it's a good point. The Alanisim is put in there because it's part of Hodah, and Hodah sort of fits there. Did everybody hear that? Rav Yaakov Yelon pointed out that the Alanisim in the benching technically doesn't follow Tadir, because we say the Alanisim before we do Ritzay. Technically, Shabbos comes every week. Hanukkah comes once a year. So we pointed out, though, that the place of Alanisim is in Hodah, just like in Shmon Esrei. We do it by Moedim. Since by benching, the Noideh follows the first paragraph of benching, and the Ritzei and the Yalav Yavo have more to do with the Beis Hamikdash and Yerushalayim, and it's put into Binyan Yerushalayim there. So it has to do more with location. So let's see the Yechav Das, who's going to give us this halacha that for the Sfardim, they say the Sheikhanu, Havavarcha Pri Chodesh, Ha'im Yagdim as Birchas Anenim Lefnei Birchas Shechianu, O Yagdim L'chila Birchas Sheikhanu. L'chadchila Yoser Nochel L'Hagdim L'varch Birchas Apri. So the Sephardic psak is to say the boy prays first, V'achar Kach Birchas Shechianu. Mikol Mokom Anogim L'varch Birchas Shechianu, L'chila Yesh Lo Mamashi Yismachu. Those that say the Shechianu first have someone to rely on. The Piskei Teshuvos gives us a summary. L'maisa, the Kravas Sfardim, Bekervas among the Sfardim, Amineg Api Gdolim Sfard Levarch Rishon is Birchas Apri, and then the Shechianu. Over Krav Ashkenazim, Nechleku Aminogim. It's divided. Udavid Kamar Avid, Udavid Kamar Avid. Each does according to their meaning. Kol Inyan, Af Elo Anogim Levar Shechianu, in Posach Lebirchas Apri, V'Shachach Levar Shechianu. Let's say your Ashkenazi minig is to say the Shechianu first, and then the boy prays. But you forgot, and you said the boy prays first. He says you should make the Shechianu before you eat the food. Okay. Now, this is the Shechianu regarding eating a new food. What about Shechianu and new possessions? Purchasing new items, like earrings, right, may stir up feelings of freshness and excitement for the purchaser. And it is fitting for a person to express his appreciation to Hashem, the source of all blessing, for this experience as well. Accordingly, Chazal instituted that a person should recite Shechianu with Shem and Malchus when purchasing, inheriting, or receiving a gift of a house or other substantial items because of the joy involved. In this context, they instituted that so long as the joy is his alone, he recites Shechianu. If the joy is shared with others, he recites the bracha Hatov Umeiti. This latter bracha has the added implication that Hashem is Tov to the one reciting the bracha and is Meitiv to others as well. So, for example, let's say you inherit with a sibling. So there, the bracha would be Hatov Umeiti. If you're the sole heir, then you would say Shechianu. That's the distinction they're trying to show here.
Right, just added even more tension to the plans for the dinner tonight. Tell us what ended up happening. Well, it's really interesting.
That's not coming from us.
Celebration.
Mario's not muted. Mario, you got him mute. Reciting Shechianu upon building a new home or purchasing new items is mentioned by the Mishnah in Masechta Brachos. Bona bayis chadash, you build a new house. Kana kelim chadashim, you bought new pots and pans. Oimer baruch shechianu, v'kimanu v'geras manazeh.
Not today.
No,
Huh?
not today.
Not today.
Pots are not a big deal today.
Yeah. Try buying your wife a birthday cake
If-
and pots.
Yeah, I wouldn't come home.
Yeah, but there are some pots and, right, there are the yesh
Yeah, but
v'yesh.
nobody's that
Ernie,
excited.
it's sitting out there.
Yeah, but, okay.
Right.
A new set of china, with a new set of silverware. I mean, silver,
We're
I-
getting closer.
yeah.
We're getting closer.
Well, talking sterling.
In
Do you
analyzing the
make
Mishnah-
do you make the bracha when you buy it or use it?
Oh, let's go through it. This sieve will tell us when you do it.
It's through this closet business. And there's also another one.
In the printed editions of the Mishnah, the bracha is mentioned using only the word shechianu. In the version of the Mishnah printed within the Talmud, the bracha is recorded in the fuller form. In analyzing the Mishnah, the Gemara discusses whether the requirement to recite shechianu also applies when the person already owns similar items. He doesn't have a house. This is a second home that he's building, or he already has kalim. So then Rav Huna says you don't make the bracha. But Rav Yochanan argues and says that you do make the bracha even if you already own these. Now, if you purchase something new and then you purchase something exactly like it, then you don't have to recite the blessing because you already recited the blessing on the first thing that you bought. That Rav Huna says that if he did not purchase an item and then repurchase it again. But Rav Yochanan, so Rav Yochanan is extreme in being lenient in reciting this bracha. He says even if you bought something and bought it again, you make the bracha. Comes out that forget about purchasing two things at the same time. If you already own something and you purchase something, you would make the bracha. The Beis Yosef writes that we rule in accordance with Rav Yochanan as presented in the second version of the analysis. Like we said, you recite it in every circumstance. The Beis Yosef also adds that the Talmud Yerushalmi states that the new owner recites shechianu even if the purchased item is a used item and it's new only for him. He concludes that if he once owned it, sold it, and has now reacquired it, shechianu should not be recited. Kaim like Rav Yochanan, Kalishna Basra. So Beis Yosef that we paskin like the second version of Rav Yochanan. The Amar bein kanek kiyotzeben, bein lo kanek, whether he bought something like this before or didn't, bein sheyeshlo, whether he owns one like it, kiyotzeben, uvein she'ein lo kiyotzeben, or he doesn't own anything. In any case, tzarich levar. The Issa b'Yerushalmi. Lav davka chadashim. It's not only when you buy new things. Elahu adin yeshanim, an old car, used car. Imem chadashim lo, but it's new for him. Lashon Yerushalmi, lo sof davar, is not the end of the story. means chadoshim elafilu shchokim, even if they're worn out a little bit, but as long as kilo chadoshim him lo. V'chein kasvu Toisvis in Talmud Bavli, in the Sugi of Rav Yochanan, the Gama Rashba, who's another Rishon, Kosav, Elafilu Shchokim Chadoshim Himlo. Used, but they're new to him, you make the bracha. Al-Korcha Loimar, Perusho Kamasha Kosav HaRosh, Vizel Shono, Elafilu Shchokim Vehin Chadoshim Lo. The Rosh also, the father of the Balaturim. So you have a lot of Rishonim that held, even if you bought a used item, but it was new for him, you'd make the bracha. V'zeh kedivu Rabbeinu. Usually Rabbeinu refers to the Rambam when the Beis Yosef is writing. Kloimar, shemein chashuvim alav kechadoshim mevarach aleim. If they're important enough for him that you make, that it's like new, then you make a bracha. Chen kosuv b'hagoyis Maimon, one of the commentaries on the Rambam, the kach kosuv the Smag, Sefer Mitzvahs Gedolos, that afilu yishanim u'chadoshim lo. And the Berek Abayit, this is additional material that was added by Rav Yosef according to the Beis Yosef after it was completed. There's usually a little sentence following. Efshar lefarish the chadoshim heim lo, the klamar hainu lo ma shelo hayu elu shalom ha'olam. Means they were never his. Here's where he's deducing this issue of, let's say he sold it off at a garage sale. Then later on he rebought it. So he's going to prove from here that there you would not say Sheikh Yanim. It excludes the case if he sold the item and then went ahead and bought it again, you would not say Sheikh Yanim. Kain Kosav Shama Rashba, the Rashba agrees. B'Shem Ravid. Ravid is sort of a co-conspirator with the Rambam. In the Rambam and the Yad Chazaka, on every page, there's a Hasagas Ravid, usually opposing what the Rambam said, because the Ravid is more Ashkenazi.
It's interesting because today it doesn't always work this way. You read stories, they're always in the paper, of someone who had a car when he was a kid, and he sold a car. He's been looking for the car for 50 years.
Oh, and it's very
and
special.
He finally finds it, and the joy is unbounded. So even though it was his at one time, now he really enjoys it.
I don't think they would argue with that.
I think
that
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Rav Yaakov was saying, there's some people, they had a car when they were, their first car, when they were 16 or 17 years old. And then they sold it when they were 20. And now, 50 years later, he wants to find his old car. And buying such a car, I don't think anybody would argue that would give him a lot of simcha. And you would make the brach of Shecherim. But this is talking about a regular, you sell it, you rebuy it, it's not special for him.
What did we decide on the pots?
We're not there yet. We've been through the Gemara. The Gemara was Rav Yochanan was extremely lenient that no matter what you buy, and the Beis Yosef now says, even if you buy something used, but it's new for you, you would make shechiah. That's so far. Even if they're new and it hasn't been used, you should make a bracha. The kivin shahayu shelo pamachli. It used to belong to him. It's not a new thing when he went ahead and rebought it. All of these positions are reconfirmed when Rav Yosef Karo later on wrote the Shulchan Aruch. And he says, Bona Bais Chadash or Kona Kelim Chadashim. He talks about buying any object. A kli is a vessel, but a piece of jewelry is a kli. It's not just a halachic kalim are items that are used. And if anything, a takshit, which is it's a special type of kli, meaning piece of jewelry used for adornment, is a special kli. So right now, to me, it sounds like anything that is purchased new, technically you make a shechianu. Afilu hayla kiyotze be'elu tchila. Even if you own other pots or other jewelry. O kana v'chazer v'kana. He bought it and sold it and rebought it. No. He bought it and bought another one. Mavarach al kol pam shechianu. V'lav davka chadoshim. Not just new stuff. Who adin liyashanim. People like to go to estate sales and buy used stuff. Sometimes it's even more expensive. It's a special thing. Even chadoshim lo. They're new to him. Shlohayu elu shalom olam. He never owned these. Then he brings this thing that if you had owned it and sold it and then repurchased it, there you would not make a shechir. Now, I think Abe asked, so b'shas hakinyan yesh lo levarach, afal pi she'adayin lo nishtamish beh. When you make the kinyan to purchase it, so in the time of Chazal, you made a kinyan by lifting the item, hatba, or meshicha, or if kinyan kesef, you paid for it. The bracha is because you're happy. You're happy that you purchased it. So it sounds here like they're saying, if you buy a new suit, you make two brachas. You make the bracha of shechianu when you buy it, when you acquire it, and then you make a bracha of mal b'sharumi when you put it on. Although the Mishnah cited above describe building a house and purchasing items, the Mishnah Berurah notes that purchasing a house is also significant. He also adds that when the substantial acquisition is shared with a partner, Hatov L'Meitiv is recited instead. Interesting, Shai, I'm going to ask. When you and your wife, husband and wife, buy a house, I think they're buying it together.
Depends on the title, how they hold the title.
Are you a lawyer?
No, Yaakov wanted to say Ishto Kagufo, so implying that
Yeah. You're one.
only one would say the bracha of Shechianu, but I think it's it's something to think about. Because we want to say that if two people acquire something, this is like let's say you're trying to buy the LA Dodgers and you have a partner, and right, two big partners bought the LA Dodgers. They're very happy that they purchased something like that. And here that would be a tovumeitiv because it's multiple people. So that's what we're talking about. When Jewish couples buy a house, there's only one person is considered like they're two people.
Bernie, if it has a gourmet kitchen, the wife can say shechianu for sure.
He said if it has a gourmet kitchen, the wife should say it.
We say Mashikona Ishto Makora Bala.
Exactly. Well, that's back to Ishto Gagufo.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
So
better question is, do you make a shechianu? Can they both make a shechianu? Or does only one of them make a shechianu?
I would think they both could do it. Maybe that's the pshat.
Yeah, but they can both.
It's not a tovumeitiv because it's not considered like they're two people, but they're both happy about it, so they both say it. Yaakov was questioning, husband and wife buy a new house. Does only the husband make the shechianu, or both of them make the shechianu? So that's where Chaim came in here. Certainly, if there's a new kitchen, certainly the wife would make the shechianu as well. Chaim Eisenberg.
Oh.
Okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah, the shechianu should be made if he bought it for himself. But if there was a partnership, so that's clearly not the wife. A wife is not a shutaf, is not a business partner. We saw in the Mishnah above, whose language is no, because of these Indian that in a chanami, a wife is mizona, gets mizonos from the husband, and a husband can, if the wife comes in with assets, the husband is entitled to the payros of those assets. Like if she has land, it's not nichsei malug, so the payros belong to the husband. She retains the ownership of the land, so it's a partnership. It's not a partnership. There are financial arrangements between husband and wife, but they're not viewed as shutafim. We saw in the Mishnah above, whose language is repeated by the commentators in poskim, that the halacha describes purchasing kalim as warranting the recital of shechianu. And you see that they were anticipating our discussion. This term is used to refer generally to useful articles or utensils. Occasionally, it's used to refer specifically to clothing. Thus, there is a long-standing association of the bracha of shechianu specifically with new clothing. With regards to the timing of the bracha, we may recall that in the case of fruits, many people recited shechianu only upon eating the fruit and not upon first seeing it. Similarly, in the case of new clothing, the dominant practice is to recite shechianu upon first wearing the garment, not the way the Shulchan Aruch told us, right? And that is indicated by the language of Shulchan Aruch upon purchasing it. This widespread practice of reciting shechianu only when you wear it is confirmed even by the Yalkut Yosef. Now, why is he telling us that? Because the Yalkut Yosef is a Sephardi, and they usually follow the Mechaber lockstep. So it's very unusual. So first, let's look at the footnote. See Mamre Mordechai and Kaf HaChaim, who already mentioned it. Although the Zos HaBracha accepts the practice of reciting the bracha as the time of the purchase, the author also notes that some recite when wearing the garment for the first time. It should also be noted that if a garment needs to be altered or hemmed by a tailor, one should recite the bracha when wearing it, according to all opinions. The same applies for a garment that must be checked for shatnez. Okay. We already
See Malbis Harumim first?
so far, the only person who mentioned the Malbis Harumim is the Shulchan Aruch, who said that we should recite the shechianu when we do a kinyan in purchasing it, and then later on when we wear it, make the bracha of Malbis Harumim. Now, right now we've been quoting that it seems like the practice is to recite shechianu when you wear it. So Abe is asking good. Do we make both brachas? If we make both brachas, which one do we recite first? Let's see if if we're going to resolve that. So says the Yalkut Yosef, Kana beged chadash, he bought a new suit. Afilo hayelo beged kazet chila. You had such a garment before. Yesh levarch shechianu b'shem malchus. You say shechianu. Vav shemikra adin hayatzarch levarch beis kniyas habeged. He says mikra adin. He agrees that you should do it when you buy it. For nagu, the minig is shelo levarch elad shas levisha sabeket. The minig is to wait, and maybe they understood that when you buy the beged, there are tailoring and fixing, and that you only get so maybe it's a practical. It became a practical minig because it wasn't really ready to be worn when you bought it. The Piskei Tshuva, while commenting that the dominant practice is to recite the bracha when first wearing the garment, he also mentions what a person should do if that person forgot to recite shechianu before putting the garment on. You should make the shechianu the first time you wear it. Now we have a rule by brachas. You usually do it oiver al asiyos. You make a bracha before whatever is going to happen happens. And you don't make the bracha of lulav after you shake the lulav. You make the bracha, then you shake the lulav. Make a bracha before eating, then you eat. It's always prior. So the thought is you're going to need to make the shechianu before you put on the garment. Same thing by the fruit, even though we learned that you could say the shechianu when seeing it, the minig has become when we eat it. Now, the hilbish beged. Now, by the way, I was thinking, when you put on your clothing, you're not fully clothed. You might be wearing a suit, you might be wearing a shirt, but you might not be wearing any pants.
You're always wearing underwear, so there's always a belt.
I understand, but the question is, I've never made shechianu before putting on my pants. Technically, the pants are new. Okay, we can discuss that. But so, v'mhil b'shah beged, v'shachach levarch shechianu, kol zman shelo poshtu yuchal levarich. As long as you haven't taken it off, it's okay. Aval in poshta beged shlom and atzlachzor. If you took off your garment already and you don't plan to put it on, v'lov shel alter shemein lo levarch shechianu, you missed. If you forgot to say it when you bought a new suit, you can say a shechianu the second time, but without the name of Hashem. So that's something to think about. According to what we have seen so far, a person recites shechianu upon building or purchasing a new home, upon purchasing new articles, and upon purchasing new clothes. And this indeed is the practice according to many Ashkenazic poskim, if the person experiences joy for the purchase. However, according to some Ashkenazic poskim and common Sephardic post practice, shechianu is not necessarily recited in all these situations. One reason for differentiating between these different items and reserving shechianu specifically for fruits and garments may be based upon the position of Rav Shri Ragon. He lived in the year 800, 900, the Gaonic time, cited in Tosfos and the Rashba, according to whom shechianu is recited only upon those things which are renewed or replaced at regular intervals. Near the mitzvah sheyesh aleh simcha tiknu shechianu. When you have joy, or mitzvah that has joy, they made shechianu. And then the Amrina B'Haroye, the Mevorach Bal Kelim Chadosh, and because of Rav Shri Ragon, the Lo Samchina Lo the Maskinu Beperek B'Chol Ma'aravin, the Be'inim Midi the Osim Izman L'Zman. It's got to be something that's renewed. Let's say a person buys a suit Rosh Hashanah time and Pesach time. That used to be the minig about new clothing. So that fits into that Rav Shri Ragon's pattern, something that's renewed periodically but regularly. In addition, with regard to a new home, some explain that if one must repay loans or mortgages for the house, the simcha is not complete because it's possible it could be taken away from him if he cannot repay the money. Instead, shechianu is typically recited only in the context of a formal Chanukas Habayis, accompanied by another item which is subject to a bracha of shechianu. Like you have a new fruit at the Chanukas Habayis. So technically, since the building of the house wouldn't establish the need for the shechianu because of what we mentioned, you don't own it, you owe money on it. So the Ben Ish Chai was a Sephardic posek in Baghdad, late 1800s. Bona Beis Chadish, Bayis Chodesh, Okona Bayis Bonim Macherim. You didn't build a new house, but you bought a new house from somebody else. Mavorch shechianu. But he says the custom now is not to do it. You make a party, a Chanukas Habayis, with a Suda. A Suda Soda. Lodos Lashem ala Tova Kemes Azos. V'yesh smach l'Suda Medivir Rabbi Seinu Zal. And there's something to rely on. Chazal give us a background to this. V'lakach nikras Suda Shel Mitzvah. And we have many examples of Suda Shel Mitzvah. The Nagu, Sheyilbosh Baal Bayis Beged Chodesh, Besochos Suda. The minig was to do Chanukas Habayis, and the Baal Bayis would wear a new suit. Vivorach alav shechianu lichavin al habayis. The ruling of the Ben Ish Chai is also confirmed by the Yalkut Yosef, who rules similarly concerning reciting shechianu on new items purchased. So some people, I'm reading the footnote 21. Some people are accustomed to conduct a formal gathering for the purpose of dedicating or inaugurating a new home. Many Sephardim recite a set over Mishnayos, other Torah texts, and Rav Ari Henkin gives you, there's a site about Chanukas Habayis. The Yalkut Yosef, Hakona Mechonit Chadasha, you buy a new car. V'hu samech ba. He has special joy. V'chen hakona tachshitei zav leisha. You listening to this, Susie?
No, you walked out the wrong.
If you buy golden jewelry
Or a tape recorder.
or tape or a tape recorder, ushar kelim shu samech bam. That's the trick. Are the people really happy with new pots? No, it's just more work for them, right?
To a dish.
A dishwasher would be samech with that.
Mm.
Av shemir kadinu rishon levarach hazer shechianu. Kvar nogam b'chol el levarach shechianu al beged chodesh. V'lifter ar kelim shekana. You got to get a new dress,
With the
and
jewelry.
then that'll cover the jewelry. It says the minig is not anymore on a car or jewelry, but they should get a garment, and that exempt that pot, and you should have in mind those other things that you got. For a portrait of minig, should be eight sudas chinuch habayis. Balabais mevor shechianu al pri chodesh. Here he says the balabais either makes a shechianu a new fruit, or beged chodesh, or he wears a new suit. With kavim lisra sadira, and you have kavana for the house. Varahitim and new furniture. V'komok makona dira v'usamech ma'od b'kniyoso. Now, if someone bought a new house, is very happy, and he wants to say shechianu, ve'ein lo beged chodesh v'shal levar shechianu, he says you can make the shechianu.
Can't find it gone.
Regarding items which are not renewed at regular intervals, Yalkut Yosef reconfirms the critical consideration cited above in the name of Shiragon. Kvar Kosov Moran Achida, Shaposhet Minik Shalol Avarch Al Kniyat Sforim Chadoshim. You buy a new set of Shulchan Aruch, a new Rambam. You don't recite Shechianu. Val Tachshitim Chadoshim, or Kli Midbach Chadoshim, new pots, new kitchenware, new jewelry. Based on what we're learning, the pshat, it seems like you would have to make shechianu. But the minig is not like it, says the Yalkut Yosef. Everybody's quoting this Rav Shira Gaon. It's not something that is a regular interval. The Sayim, the Magen Avram concluded to become Mokom Ein Lahakel. You should recite it. V'minig Lahakel. Moshe Kosov Beis Yosef B'Shem HaRashba. Says the Piskei Teshuvos. Umaskanot halacha v'minag. Leinin kelim baitiim. You're talking about furniture, homeware. Chadoime ein noagim levarach hatov l'meiti v'or shechianu. He says the minig is not. Vav kelim yikarim. Expensive. Chashuvim biyoter. Kigon mechonit chad, a new car. Mazgan, a new air conditioner. Obviously, he lives in Israel. Ushar machshir chashmal, other electric appliance, like Rav Yaakov said, a dishwasher. Chashuvim yikarim. Aronos, a new beautiful cabinet. Ushar rahitim, other furniture. Tachshir kezav zav kadome. The minig is not to make shechianu. Now, if the kelim shekol bnei abayis no argument, for example, furniture, you don't just benefit from the furniture; the whole family does. So, if someone wants to make a tov l'meitiv or shechianu lo yifsid, it's not the end of the world. You didn't lose out. As long as on these expensive items you're happy. Wow. Right? The fourth bracha, which was established, the fourth bracha of Birchas Hamazon was established in Yavna when the bodies of Beitar were given Kfura. So we say they're Atovu Meiti. So what he wants to say is that during that bracha, when you bench, you have in mind all these good things. When you could do it. Or when you have a new fruit, you make shechianu and you have in mind these things. As mentioned, Yalkut Yosef, the poskim discussed the status of assorted other items, including new sforim. While there's a general disagreement whether sforim are generally subject to shechianu, Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach rules that a person may recite shechianu when acquiring sforim which bring him particular joy. Rosh Shlomo Zalman mentions that sometimes people are given form of substantial value, as is often the case of multi-volume sets and new editions, and as a gift, and the person might be very happy. Okay, what about special clothing? As mentioned above, the halacha dictates, then one must recite shechianu upon purchasing new article of clothing. However, the Tosfos observes that it's not true for all articles of clothing. Oimer ri, davka b'godim chashuvim, important begodim, doing by chodesh similar to a new house. Nokat chelim chadashim, aval kshenim chashuvim kol kach, kamo shoes, van palias, socks, undergarments. Of course, even if they're new, it's not considered chashuvim. The Shulchan Aruch rules in accordance with this position of the Tosfos, so that a typical person would not recite shechianu upon undistinguished clothing, such as undershirts and footwear. He's never bought a Bruno Magli. Huh? Or-
You learned something.
I see.
Bruno Mali.
Bruno Magli.
Mhm.
However, the Ramah debates the Shulchan Aruch's ruling regarding a poor person. And the Ramah also relates to an intriguing position surrounding leather shoes and garments. Al davar she'eino choshev kol kach, something that's not that important. Kigon choluk, an undershirt. Or minalim van paliot, shoes or slippers. Ein levarach aleim. V'imu ani v'samech b'hem yivarech, but if he's poor and he's happy with acquiring them, he can make the bracha, says the Ramah. Some say that even an ani doesn't make a bracha on these items. That's the minig. The minig is to tell somebody who you see in a new suit, wear it out and be mischadesh. Some say this only if they see you wearing new shichalech. Or a leather coat. Because they have to kill another animal. Interesting. So you would not say tischadesh and wear it out because it involves killing another animal for leather shoes or a leather coat. Uksiv, rachma v'kol masav. You have to have mercy on all of his creations. He says he doesn't accept that. But he says the minig is some not to say that. According to what we have seen, we would expect that the halacha should be that one should recite shechianu when wearing a new shirt, slacks, or a dress for the first time. This is indeed the ruling, because we talked about begodim. It sounds like what everybody agrees on is fruit. We talked about begodim.
I don't know why the jewelry got coupled with the clothing.
No, it's not. It's clothing and fruit.
Is there any mention of a shaitel? I haven't heard that.
I know.
It's expensive.
Very, very.
That's right.
How about jewelry? But why was jewelry coupled with?
Jewelry was, they took jewelry out. They said,
Why?
when you buy a new dress, you should have in mind the jewelry.
Why?
So that
That's-
the woman can get both, the new dress and the jewelry.
But children have greater value than the rest.
It's not only value.
However, the Piskei Tshuva reports that contemporary practice is not to recite shechianu on such clothes. Moreover, he writes that there are also conflicting custom, even regarding shechianu upon finer Shabbos clothing. Abgarim chadashim, ha'inu abgarim chashuvim, kagon me'il, a jacket, chalifa, a suit, kovaya yakar, like a shtreimel, a new hat, umuder shel yemos achol, or shel Shabbos, or talish shel mitzvah. Noagim rabim levar shechianu. Aval gam ze matzim menagim shein mevarchim klal. There's minig not to make the bracha. Abgarim chadashim. Ach nachon ma'od she'akpidu levarch al pri chadash, but the minig is to be makbid on a new fruit. All al bishul lekovid yontiv. That since if you buy a suit for kovid yontiv, shemen melam avachar shechin bekidush lachavi lifter abeged. Not to recite a separate shechianu, but you're buying a new suit for the yontiv. And when you say shechianu, when at the night of the Seder, at the night of Kiddush, you have in mind the beged. V'albgorim apshutim kechaluki bayit, a pajama, chalat, a house coat, chultzot, sweaters, v'sveterim, machnisim, mechlasayim pants, l'divra kol ein levar shechianu filu ani v'samech bem, even a poor person.
We have like a disposable society now.
So
Susie said because everything is disposable today, so nothing is really, viewed as that
Yeah.
exciting.
And that's,
So what
I think
about
that's actually the
your-
next comment.
Oh, really?
That's the next comment. I think it's the-
But what about if you're coming out of Avelis, right, for a parent, so, and you bought clothes either before, when we were still in Anon, or, you bought stuff because like, it was a deal beyond, and you were doing that, but you couldn't wear it till after, the year was out. But you needed it, so you have a good friend wear it for you, like for an hour or so, and that's fine. That person, that friend doesn't say the shechianu, but when you can put it on a year later, or whatever, do you say shechianu?
Yeah, perhaps because you never wore, it's new for
No.
you. So we said even something used, if you bought something used, if it's new for you, you'd be able to recite the bracha. I did after my year of Avelis, the first thing we bought was a new hat for shul, and I said a shechianu, I believe, because it fulfills this thing.
I think this
Maybe-
was expensive too.
Okay, perhaps the different approaches of the poskim stem from the different socioeconomic standards today than in past generations, like Susie said. Since clothing is significantly less expensive today than it was in previous times, and it's purchased far more regularly, there may be less joy in purchasing new clothing today than there was in previous generations. Yet many people still do feel joy when purchasing new clothing. Thus, we can understand the basis for both practices. Okay. I don't want to rush through the next halacha because it's about shechianu when you see a new friend after a long period of time, and then about childbirth. So let's leave that to next week. There we're going to talk about brachas on thunder and lightning, all the various sort of miscellaneous brachas that we have, about in back of the Shemona Esrei there at the end of most Sidurim. So Mirz Hashem will continue next week. I wish anybody have any comments, questions, how I wrote about anything we discussed tonight?
Mm-mm.